Namaskar. This is Akhilesh Bhargav. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. In tax matters in particular, the government of India is a compulsive and reckless litigant, which explains why it loses most of its cases at every level of the judiciary, whether it be the tribunal, whether it be the high courts or the Supreme Court also. In doing so, the government is completely unmindful of the immense hardship and harassment that it causes to the taxpayers, which also vitiates the overall business environment in India and also erodes the ease of doing business in India. The government is also the most unsporting, grudging, disgruntled, and vengeful litigant, such that when the stakes are high or some neta or babu's misplaced pride and customary arrogance is at stake, then even after losing a case at the Supreme Court, it blatantly amends the tax law retrospectively in order to undo the court judgment and nullify the taxpayer's victory. The most famous of such cases in recent times has been that of Vodafone, where the government, after losing in the Supreme Court in January 2012, immediately amended the Income Tax Act retrospectively with effect from its very inception in 1961, and thus nullified the Supreme Court judgment in the case of Vodafone. It was an unjust and unbecoming conduct on the part of the government, which got it the shameful tag of tax terror and also an enormous amount of bad press for India in the global media. That's what it got us. The government can easily indulge in such bluster and bully because it fights taxpayers on its own turf and territory, where it has the unchallenged, undisputed, and end-to-end power to make the law, enforce it, and amend it, that too at its own sweet will. It's a one-sided game in India, where the government is the player and the referee too, and that's how it amends the law when it loses a case. But it's a totally different story, and the dynamics of law enforcement and litigation change completely when a taxpayer drags the government to courts abroad and litigates under a foreign law in a foreign land. On a foreign territory and under a foreign law, the Indian government's power to amend the law and undo a taxpayer's victory is gone. It creates a neutral, level playing field where the mighty Indian government is just another ordinary litigant with no special powers of the kind it has in India. The moral of the story is that if the stakes are high and if you want a fair litigation where the government cannot bend and amend the tax law, then fight the government in foreign courts under international laws and tax treaties and not under an Indian law, which it can amend as it when it wants to do so. And that's what we are seeing in the case of the British company Cairn Energy, where a fierce litigation is going on. Let's have a look at the sequence of events in this case, which at the moment is in global limelight. In 2004, Cairn discovered the Mangal oil field at Badmer. In 2006, it restructured its group shareholding in UK under an internal reorganization involving the ownership of Cairn India, on which Cairn UK paid no tax in India. And that's because the transaction was fully conducted abroad and was beyond the ambit of the Indian tax laws. In 2012, the government amended the Income Tax Act retrospectively with effect from 1961 after losing the Vodafone case in the Supreme Court. In 2014, the government raised a tax demand of $1.4 billion on Cairn UK, saying that its internal restructuring, which took place in 2006, almost a decade ago, it said that it was now taxable in India by virtue of the retrospective amendment of the tax law in India. The tax demand that it raised soon ballooned to over 22,000 crores together with interest and penalty. In 2015, wizened by the Vodafone experience, Cairn Energy focused on litigating abroad and rushed into international arbitration at The Hague, contending that such tax demand was a stark violation of the India-UK Investment Treaty, and hence it was invalid and it was not enforceable. The hearing concluded in this case at The Hague in December 2018, and the judgment was awaited. The judgment came in December 2020. An arbitration award was unanimously given in favor of Cairn UK, holding that the dispute is not just one of a tax issue, but is an investment-related one too, and is thus within the jurisdiction of the arbitration panel at Hague to decide. It held that the disputed tax levied on Cairn by the government of India was in breach of guarantee of fair and equitable treatment under the India-UK Investment Treaty. It asked the Indian government to pay a sum of $1.2 billion to Cairn UK, together with interest and costs, which aggregated at that time to $1.72 billion. The turn of events after this arbitration award was given in December 2020 has been fast-paced, with Cairn seizing and leading the initiative. In January 2021, Cairn demanded that the government pay it the award amount of $1.72 billion and said that it will do whatever is needed in order to recover the amount and protect the interests of its shareholders. In February, Cairn filed a separate case in a US court to recognize and confirm this arbitration award and get it that money. Then in February, the Cairn UK visited India. He was exploring an amicable out-of-court settlement in the case. The finance minister refused to meet him. He then met the finance secretary and the CBDT chairman, who suggested that Cairn should accept the tax demand and should settle it under the ongoing Vivad se Vishwas scheme for settlement of tax disputes. And in doing so, it would pay no interest and no penalty. It would just pay the principal amount of tax. In March then, Cairn told its shareholders in its annual report that the arbitration award is enforceable against the Indian government in 160 nations which have ratified the UN Convention on Recognition and Enforcement of Foreign Arbitral Awards. The company said that it has already moved courts in USA, UK and 3 other nations looking into the possibility of seizing assets of the Indian government, including its bank balances, in order to recover the amount. In March, the government of India filed an appeal in a Dutch court challenging the arbitration award and seeking a stay on it. The government said that it was also contesting the award in at least 8 jurisdictions, including the UK, USA, France, and Canada. It said that it is contesting and defending its sovereign right to levy and collect tax in India. In April, Cairn said that it has identified assets of $70 billion of the Indian government, which included airplanes, oil and gas cargoes, bank balances, assets of PSUs and public sector banks, etc., and said that it has initiated the process of seizing them to recover its claim of $1.72 billion. This month, the government asked the public sector banks to watch out and protect their overseas foreign bank balances. This month, Cairn has now sued Air India in a New York district court to enforce the $1.72 billion award, challenging the distinction between Air India and the government. It said that such a distinction is illusory and it improperly shields the assets of the government of India from Cairn. The government now says that it has assembled a global team of experts to defend its assets in overseas courts and that the arbitration enforcement action is completely illegal. The fact of the matter is that this action of Cairn is not without international precedence and has often been effective and successful against truant governments or their organizations. In 2019, ConocoPhillips of USA effectively recovered $2 billion from a company called PDVSA, a Venezuelan government oil company, and that was towards an arbitration award given to it in 2007. It managed to recover it. In another case, an American hedge fund enforced the recovery of bonds against the Argentine government, and it did that by seizure of a ship of the Argentine Navy. It also managed to recover. In yet another matter, a French court ordered seizure of a Congo government airplane towards recovery of $30 million from the Congo government state oil company. And last year, the Malaysian government seized planes of the Pakistan International Airlines at the Kuala Lumpur airport in order to enforce recovery of unpaid airline lease rentals for an Irish company. So these precedents have taken place, and Cairn Energy's action is not without a foundation. A few interesting points emerge to us out of this unprecedented case. The first one, of course, if you are a litigant and you have the resources, then drag the government of India and litigate it on a neutral foreign turf, or else a victory will always elude you. But you cannot do that if you have other local assets and businesses at stake in India, because the government will have different means of trying to trouble you. Cairn UK has been able to do so because it is wholly based abroad and is therefore beyond the clutches of the Indian government. That perhaps explains why, despite a similar victory that Vodafone got, it has not gone the Cairn way. The second point, with the Cairn dispute having reached an advanced stage and no party willing to relent, and both determined to explore any and all options, any closed door and dignified settlement of the case is ruled out at present. And finally, India's best hope in this case is that it wins its appeal against the arbitration award. But whether it wins or whether it loses, more bad press is inevitable for India. After all, such a retrospective tax demand, which is the root cause of this litigation, is neither honorable, nor is it just and fair, and nor is it therefore defensible. And therefore, bad press certainly is headed toward the Indian government's way. This is Akhilesh Bhargav signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. And thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here, you can be our supporter by paying Rs 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr. Sujit Nair and from Mr. Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying Rs 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our Super Supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr. Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr. Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.